So neurographic art is basically a mindfulness drawing technique. And we've done mindful drawing in this series in the past and also in other series too. But mindful drawing really just centers around, again, being in that moment and being like just making marks, right? Not worrying about any kind of representational image, but just making lines and patterns on a paper. And by doing that, by being focused on or immersed in the drawing that's in front of us, it has a way of kind of relaxing our body and kind of calming our heart, our soul, quieting our brain, and just kind of putting us in that moment. And so neurographic art is just that as well. It's a term that was coined very recently in like 2014, I think, very recently. But it is a really enjoyable mindful drawing process. And I have a couple examples here. These are just a couple examples of some neurographic art. One of the things I like about it is it kind of gives this image of stained glass. Which is really nice, I think, really fun. But it can be a variety of things. It can be very abstract, like this one, or I can take an image like water in the sun and turn that into a neurographic art piece. But it really involves these free form lines called neurolines, rounding those edges and then adding color. There's something about this process that our brain finds so relaxing. And I think the idea behind that is that these black lines that we make kind of mimics the neurosynapses in our brain. But there's something that really does calm our brain down. I know that this is a process that I've done with clients before in art therapy, and it does have a way to kind of really calm and center us. It's something I do on my own too, which is really enjoyable. So this is the process that we're going to do today. So the supplies that we need for our project today is going to be a black pen or black marker, and I'm going to be using a black marker, and then some supplies to color with. And so I'm going to be using some colored pencils today. And I'm going to leave these images out as kind of our inspiration photos. But so having that black pen or marker, black pencil, and then a variety of colors to do our piece today. All right. So let's go ahead and start our drawing. Just kind of relax your body into your chair. Maybe take a deep breath and let it out. And we're going to start our drawing today by starting with a frame, giving ourselves a border. So I'm going to take my black marker, and if you have any kind of black utensil, go ahead and pick that up. And again, you can do it with a number 2 pencil too. That's totally fine. But let's go ahead and on our page, let's kind of make a border, make a little frame. This is really great starting with that frame because it gives us kind of a guideline to work off of. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see my lines are a little crooked, but it just kind of gives us that base to work off of. So once you have that square, now's the time to go ahead and add some lines in, these free flowing lines. It can be straight lines. It can be wavy lines. It can overlap. Just kind of add some lines in. I've got about 8 or 9 lines. I'm just going to kind of fill my space with some lines. And once you do that, and again, those lines can go any direction. They can overlap, they can be separate, but just stretch those lines across that box that we just drew. Once you do that, we're going to start focusing in on those intersecting lines. So they're going to be areas kind of like this, where lines intersect. We're going to start working on those areas. And what we're going to do is round those areas. So every area where you see an angle, we're going to kind of round it off. So for example, like right here, there's an angle right here. I'm just going to kind of round that off and color it in a little. So over here, I have that angle, just going to round it off. So it looks like I'm putting this circle, this rounded shape inside that angled shape. And again, in that same square, I have this angle right here. So I'm just going to kind of round it off and color it in. So now it looks like I have this, like I said, this kind of bulbous shape. So let's spend the next few moments just filling our page with those rounded edges. All those angles that you see where there's a corner, just kind of make it rounded. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about making the perfect rounded shape. It's just kind of rounding those edges. So there are no hard edges. And just kind of do that all across your page. Everywhere you see a corner, an angle, we're just kind of curving it off, rounding it out. Just kind of take your time with it. I think one of the things that's so nice about this process is, again, it's another one that kind of forces us to slow down just a little bit, right? Paying attention to all those angles that are in our drawing of lines. I'm just kind of rounding each of those areas off. This is the first step to that neurographic drawing. And the thing that's really nice about this process is that because it has those curves in there, it has a way of kind of mimicking those brain synapses, right? And there's something like, this is a process that has been tested and proven to really relax the brain. And so we'll just spend the next few moments rounding all those edges. Know that it doesn't have to be perfect. They don't have to be super straight or perfectly rounded. I've noticed as I'm going through my drawing that some of my lines are pretty light. So I'm just going back and darkening those lines too. But no, you don't have to do that. Again, the step that we're doing right now is just kind of rounding all the angles. So it looks like this kind of really organic, bulbous shape inside of each of these angles that we've created, these boxes. So just take your time with it. Just going through and rounding each of those angled pieces, giving ourselves permission to slow down. Just kind of color in each of those angled spaces. And if you find yourself picking up speed or doing this rather quickly, know that it's okay to put your pen down for just a moment and kind of take a breath. And then pick it up again and continue on. I think we get the benefit of this type of drawing when we do kind of take our time with it. I know sometimes that's hard because our lives get so fast-paced. And so it's hard sometimes to slow down, but there's benefit in that. If you do find that your mind is starting to wander just a little bit as you're drawing, know that that's okay. Just gently guide your thoughts back to the drawing that's right in front of you, to the curving lines. Again, just taking each angled area and make it kind of rounded. We're softening those edges. And just kind of take your time with it again. Knowing it doesn't have to be perfect. This drawing is not about that. It's not about having the straightest lines or the perfect curves. And if you're drawing through, like filling in those spaces, and you realize, oh, maybe I need some more lines coming through, it's okay to kind of add those lines in. Just remember when we do that, we want to kind of curve those edges. So it's kind of rounded. Gives that kind of rounded feel. Once you get to that place where you finish kind of rounding those edges, I did go back through and darken some of my lines. But once you get to that place where you've rounded all your edges, and start adding that color in. I like the way it's starting to look. It gives it kind of that stained glass feel with those really dark lines. And then we're about to add some of that color in. You know, you can add it in a very abstract way, or you can turn it into something. The examples I have here are kind of an example of that kind of abstract feel, but also like turning it into a landscape. We're just going to color those images in. And again, if you want to make some of those spaces smaller, definitely feel free to. But as you draw those lines, remember to just kind of round those edges just a little bit, so it kind of has that rounded shape on the inside. So I'm using colored pencils for my drawing today, and I'm going to start coloring in some of those spaces. Again, just give yourself permission to slow down as you're doing this. It's not about rushing through it. It's not about, again, having that beautiful, finished, perfect piece. It really is about that process of making. Filling in those spaces. I'm using colored pencils today, but you can use any type of coloring supply, whether it's paint or marker. Colored pencil, colored pens. And again, just give yourself permission to slow down with this process. However your drawing starts. However many shapes you have. That's not important, right? Again, the important part is really the process of making and filling in those spaces. Adding those colors in. Maybe thinking about the particular colors that you're using. We've spent time in other groups talking about how colors can have meanings, and they can have very personal meanings. What one color means to me may be different from what it means to you, and that's okay. Right? But sometimes it's nice to think about those color meanings, the specific colors that we're choosing, and why we're choosing these specific colors. Is it because they have a nice association for us? Or there's a memory that goes along with it that's pleasing? I'm just going to take your time with it today. For my image, I'm just doing an abstracted image. I'm not making any kind of representational piece out of it. Sometimes it's nice, I think, to just have those colors. But definitely feel free to be creative with that. Add your own spin to it. I think there's like because of that mimicking of neurons, I think there's something that is really calming to the brain about that. I don't know, it's interesting to see it kind of show up as we're drawing. I guess it's very aptly named. And just take your time um, with your drawing. I think this would be absolutely beautiful on watercolor too. And of course, feel free to try it again with a thicker paper. I did this example on watercolor paper, but I did it with markers. And we can always do it and then add it to our journal later. I think there is something that is really calming about these really organic shapes by taking away those hard edges and angles that the corners are in. We've kind of made it really flowy and like smooth, soothing. And again, just kind of take your time with your drawing, building up those colors. Whatever color supply you're using, whether it's um, color pencils like me or markers, even crayons, whatever color supply you have, just take your time with it. And if you feel yourself kind of speeding up, know that it's okay. It's okay to kind of put down our color supply and take a moment, take a breath, and pick it up again. I think there really is a nice benefit to um, slowing down with these art processes that we talk about in this series. Drawing, no matter what kind of, no matter the type of drawing we do, um, drawing is a very immersive, embodied practice. We're using our senses, different parts of our body to do this process, not just our hands, but our eyes, our, our brains, our hands. Sometimes we can feel a little distracted with what we're doing, but know that it's okay to have those distractions pop up. You know, we're thinking about to-do lists or plans. next steps. It's okay for that to happen. Our brain is just doing what it's meant to do. Just gently guide your thoughts back to this drawing in front of you. Filling in those colors. Filling in those shapes. And know that you don't have to do it this way. You can make it your own too. Change it up and be creative with it. There have been drawings before where I've added details inside these orb shapes. So for example, let me get my pen. For something like this, after I've gotten done or finished adding color, I can go back through and just start making designs inside those colors too. So it doesn't have to be just the color blocks. There can be patterning inside it as well. This is a process that can be built on and added to. You can be creative with how we do it. Bring our own spin to it, so to speak. Kind of take your time with filling in those spaces. Know that it's okay if you're not finished with your drawing in this time we have together. I don't want you to rush through it. Give yourself permission to slow down and really spend time making those marks and coloring in those spaces. And just kind of take your time with this, coloring in those spaces, filling in those different shapes. And all be different colors. Or can be variations of the same colors like I have with this here. And just kind of fill in those words. And know that it doesn't have to be perfectly colored in. Using the perfect marks, the right color. It doesn't matter. Just taking the time to fill those spaces in. and fill it in however feels right. Like I said, that can be adding in different colors. That could also be like going back through with your black marker or pen and adding some patterning to the inside. It doesn't just have to be these finished colors that we're working on. This is a good kind of starting place. Know that whatever color you use, whatever shape shows up, it's just right and exactly as it's supposed to be. There's no way to mess it up. Just kind of taking our time with it, filling in. That's what's important with this piece. I know, like my edges aren't the straightest. I've got some lines that are off, but the truth is that's okay. It's okay that my lines are shaky. When we're so close to it, we can see those so-called flaws and imperfections. But when we take that moment to kind of stand back and look at it, we can see the beauty of it. We can see it in its whole. And appreciate it for its complete, all its pieces. And just kind of filling in those spaces. Adding those different colors. Know that whatever you do is right and good. And just filling in those spaces. And I'll say, sometimes you may get to a place where, I use this one color and I can see that it's not showing up very well. So it's okay for me to color over it too. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. There can be redos on it, and it can still be good with those redos and other layers. And again, this process is really about that mindful practice, being in the moment. Again, even though this is neurographic art and it's supposed to be soothing to our brain, it's still that kind of embodied practice where we're focusing on being in that moment, focused on the shapes that are right in front of us, the tip of our color utensil, whatever that is. It's okay to do something over again or color on top of it. There may be one shape you're not as fond of, and that's okay too. Just give yourself permission to take your time with this. Filling in each of those spaces. Watching those colors build up. Whatever color choice you're using. They're doing variations of the same color, maybe all cool colors or warm colors, muted colors or bold colors. We'll start filling in those spaces. And know that you don't have to just leave it as the color blocks. You can add those patternings to it and designs inside of it. Mhm. You may not get finished with the piece during this time we have together, and that's okay. I know our time is coming to a close right now. So if you want to start finding that stopping place, maybe you're on your last square, or maybe you've got some more to go. Let's finding that stopping place today. Finishing up what you're working on. Mhm.